Okay, so welcome with John Lavenia himself here to the John Lavenia Success Mastermind General Session. 14th of December, believe it or not, I still can't believe it myself. So we're running down the last days of the general session for this year, which reminds me of last year's fantastic year-end sessions we had, just celebrating what we've done during the year. And I hope we'll get to do that in the next week or so. Daisy just joined us. Welcome, Daisy. Good to see you. And I was just talking to John about moving, which is very apt at the end of the year, start of a new period, start of a new life in Florida, which is very exciting. So while people dial in, I will hesitate to do the housekeeping now, but I'll just mention it for Daisy's benefit already. The Corporate Curios later, 5 p.m. Eastern Time US. So 5 p.m. it's Ivier doing Corporate Curios, wonderful session, boardroom experiences, management experiences, relationships in business. Hi, Gail, how you doing? Good to see you. So that's later on, 5 p.m. Eastern Time US for anyone that can do it. I believe at the moment that's 10 p.m. in the UK, but the UK people will know that. So we will, hi, Edward, how are you? We will get going without further ado as people come in and join us. I had done a lot of thinking as it's approaching the year end. I remember speaking last year and I can remember celebrating everybody's wins and what they'd done and what we'd seen of everybody individually during 2020. And we've had a similar experience in 2021. But it does remind me that we're at week 50 now. Job's almost done for 2021. And that got me to thinking, crumbs, it's late in the year. It's been quite a journey again this year. Who would have known, who would have expected yet again, another odd year, living a bit out of cycle, getting somewhat pulled all over the place. And the journey we've had this year got me to thinking about the year that many of us have actually experienced on the ground and what it's been like out there. So yet again, we've been buffeted by waves of difficulties, personal lives, business lives disrupted, some people actually getting ill, unfortunately. And COVID, of course, has disrupted the global order. So we've really been pushed, as we say in the UK, from pillar to post recently. And in many cases, we've had to adjust our whole approach, our whole lives, maybe our ideas and what we believe we should be doing with our lives. That's the positive side of it for me. It really has made me think. It made us address what life is all about. So I think that's been a positive outcome of all this. But on this year's journey, as challenging as it's been, as disruptive as it's been, the question I asked myself last week was, well, where have we ended up? Have we ended up in this week 50 as ourselves, or are we really still living outside ourselves on the wrong journey? Are we still on track in alignment with our chosen desires and goals that we've identified? Or, have we taken on a different role, been pushed into a different role or onto a different path? Have we been deflected again from living and find ourselves living out of alignment with ourselves again, because this can easily happen? And that question that I put to myself reminded me of a session I held about a year ago, just over a year ago, about being yourself, being you, being who you want to be, I called it. It's in the library. And that discussion arose from the challenges that many of us faced in 2020, whereby we were all re-examining our lives and realizing that we were possibly, in some cases, not living as ourselves, as I call it. And perhaps we hadn't dared to live as ourselves in some cases, or that we believe we should conform to what people perceived we should do and to other people's expectations. That came up. Also, another point that we encountered with people was that perhaps we were ashamed of our past roles and origins, and we didn't think we were worthy in the new areas we'd identified and didn't deserve to be there and couldn't achieve more, which took us into the imposter syndrome discussions we've had a few times, being afraid to show the real us for fear of being identified as an imposter, not belonging in this realm, e-commerce, for example, that we've chosen. So all of that, all of those points and all of those issues came back to mind again, facing this week 50 and the end of this 2021 journey, which we'll never get back. What have I done this year? What have I done about it? What have we done? And how are we sitting now? Are we sitting as ourselves? And, it hit me with force again. It's so important that we are ourselves and live as ourselves in alignment with ourselves, no matter what the cost to us personally. Long term, you're in a permanent conflict otherwise. It's really the only way to be. Now, I'll take a few minutes to make some observations, if I may, before I go and make some points about being ourselves and how important that is and how to do it. But we do, I think, in passing, I wanted to say, have a duty to be ourselves, not just for us, but because we can actually transform the lives of other people by doing that. And I was reminded of the story I read of a young schoolboy in India, I think he was about 12 years old, who decided to express himself by teaching his companions in his home village. He became, in the process, the world's youngest headmaster, believe it or not. Now, he was lucky enough to have been able to attend school and to receive formal schooling, while many of his fellow village children didn't have access to that. And he felt that very strongly. And he decided to express himself by setting up a school. But the way he actually did this, because he had no resources, was to come home at night after school and then teach the other children what he'd learned that day. How clever and basic is that? So he became himself and transformed the lives of others in the process. And I just listened to a broadcast this week on the BBC in the UK about a young schoolboy in Pittsburgh named Bill Strickland, who at the time, this is years ago now, was very lost and underperforming at school. He, luckily for him, happened upon a teacher one day looking through a door called Frank Ross, sitting at a potter's wheel. And he found himself this way. This is the first time he found himself. He fell in love with ceramics as a result of seeing the pot growing on this wheel. And his art teacher identified his enthusiasm, took him under his wing and gave him new purpose and actual meaning for the first time and inspired him. And he did that through the power of art and creativity. This leads on to what Bill Strickland did about this, because he found himself a second time. He did actually complete his school studies and he went on to study ceramics at degree level. And what did he do? He decided that if his art teacher had inspired him and that he was now himself and living as himself, he could give that to other children in his deprived neighborhood. And that's what he did. He set up the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild in the United States, and that now runs as a global non-profit organization. And it trains and inspires young people through using creativity, the arts, music, and they've added in now other disciplines. Interestingly, they found that by following this program, children also performed better at school and became engaged in their classes. So it was a win-win. So Bill Strickland found himself through generous and inspiring acts of a teacher. And he then inspired thousands by being his true self. Never underestimate that power of inspiration that we have. We hold it in our hands right now, and we can pass that gift on. And that struck me before we go on to talk more about being ourselves. So being ourselves matters for the world, not just for us. It matters for humanity generally. And John and Shannon certainly live that lesson every day by teaching people their way, day in, day out, and trying to put them in a place they should be as themselves. So in that context, and in the context of being yourself and being who you want to be, I wanted to raise 8 points, really. I thought we'd go through 8 areas. There are so many things I could say about this, but I thought I'd go through 8 of the areas I had noted down previously. First thing to say, and I think this is really important, is that other people don't perceive us as we perceive ourselves. And that's a mistake we commonly make. Don't allow our own perceptions of ourselves to hold us back, because people do not see us the same way we see ourselves. It's important, therefore, to forget how you're perceived and how you perceive yourself. It just will confuse and hold you back. Just get on with it and be yourself as you feel it. And it's so important. People are always going to see us how they want to see us. So carry on and do your own thing, and you'll find the right people. I mean, I made the point when I spoke last year about being mistaken for people, which stresses this point. I have been mistaken for people on television, sports people, etc., many, many times. A James Bond villain I mentioned as well, which made me laugh. So I was seen by those people in a completely different way to the way I'd seen myself and the way I actually was. And if I tried to live in those roles, they wouldn't have been me. So it's important just to carry on and be yourself, and just not try and be in a different walk of life or something you think somebody else wants you to be. I think those things hold us back from living our true destiny and as our true self. The other thing is focusing too much on the flaws that we feel we have. Everybody else has just as many flaws as we all do. Don't think there's anyone out there with none. So don't be afraid of being flawed as yourself and try and cover that up and be somebody else. It's normal to be flawed. Humanity is flawed. And I think a lot of religious teaching will stress that as well. and Gail might confirm that. But instead of focusing on the flaws, focus on being ourselves and finding our skills and qualities and our positive traits. The flaws will be there, and yes, they'll bug us and they'll cause us a few problems, but don't focus on those to the detriment of getting forward as ourselves. Recognize the flaws because they help us to know our limits, but don't focus on them and just feel inadequate in doing so. That's not the point of recognizing your flaws. Now, Earl Nightingale, I thought I'd mention this point. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Many of us will remember that we began this whole journey as a group with those quotes from the famous Earl Nightingale and the most wonderful recording that he laid down on success and the power of thought. So he said it doesn't matter what that worthy ideal is, it's your ideal. As long as you're pursuing a worthy ideal, that's success. That is it. You realize it gradually though, mistakes and flaws and all, and you learn the lessons along the way. So take those lessons from every role you've ever had on this road to your worthy ideal, and from every mistake you've made. Those mistakes are the fuel in our tank. They're the things that fuel our future and teach us. In fact, the most powerful lessons we can ever have. So Earl Nightingale was quite forceful about this. I said about this last year, the person with the most experiences weaves the richest tapestry. That was my summary of it. And I really believe that. But what you have to do, and what we all have to do, is weave the tapestry with the threads we have, not with somebody else's threads that we've been handed. The most valuable threads are the ones we've learned. Third area I wanted to alight on is that, you may also feel, being yourself, you're the odd one out and that you don't fit in. You just don't fit the mold. You're in an area you're striving to be in and you feel out of place, that you're an imposter again. But don't believe that, because there are always plenty of people like us, like you, always, always, always. Those people are out there all around us, and they will follow what we're doing and they will identify us with us. We only need that group of people. We can't force other people to like us by trying to pretend to be someone else. That's just not a great formula for personal success or business success. You're always going to find, as we call it, your tribe. They are out there right now. And there are billions of people out there on the internet. You only need to convert a few of them or find that they think the way you do to have a following. And the secret, therefore, is to getting better at finding those followers. The secret is not changing to be somebody else and adapting like a chameleon. The secret is being you, the best way you can be, and the most powerful you can be. And then you go out and find the people that are like you to sell to help, to encourage, whatever it is you're planning to do. And in my view, you're likely to find them much more easily when you're in tune with them, because you understand them, because they're like you. It makes a lot of sense. Trying to be somebody else just doesn't work from that point of view. Someone else's tribe is not going to follow you on a sustainable basis. They might for a short while before they realize you're not like them. They don't identify with you and they're not your tribe. They will leave to follow somebody else, customers, for products, whatever it is. You might get away with it for a while, but it's short-lived. It's just not sustainable. So you can make a virtue out of being yourself. I really, really believe that. Make being you a virtue. You're going to find those customers and followers for what you're doing. And Tim Ferriss touched on this in his book, Tribe of Mentors, which I recommend. It's full of a collection of short pieces of advice from prominent people in commerce and other walks of life. And he mentioned a well-known blogger who he'd interviewed, Tim Urban. And Tim Urban said this. He said, I started out basically imagining I was writing for a stadium full of replicas of myself, which made things easy because I already knew exactly what topics interested them, what writing style they liked, their sense of humor, etc., because he was writing for himself. So what do you think of that? Couldn't we apply that to our own efforts and our products and our services, being yourself and writing and creating products for the tribe of people like you? If you are yourself, you know exactly how to do that because you're doing it for you. That's a perfect ideal customer avatar exercise from my point of view, in my view. I think all great products probably started that way if you think about it. The iPhone, Steve Jobs made things for himself the way he liked them. The luxury designer who sits there making a Prada handbag puts all the detailing and quality into it coming from that designer and their background. They're pouring themselves into the product. They put themselves into the detail, and then the followers they have take up those details and those qualities and those expressions of their artistic endeavor and they follow them and they buy the product and they identify with it. That's what it's all about. So remember, I think important to remember that we're on a journey with our customers. We're on that road with them. We grow all the way along with them, and we develop our ways and ideas en route because we're with them and we're learning from them. So being ourselves allows us to embrace this development, really personal development, and benefit from it. It's a feedback loop, I think. I think of it as a feedback loop, one in which we feel and experience the reverberations of what we've developed coming back from our group of followers and customers. And we then feed those learnings and those sentiments back into our next product and our next offering. That's what's happening all the time. And I've often said, when I speak to this group, for example, I'm speaking to myself as well as to all of you. And I'm testing and learning my thoughts in thinking about speaking today, and then in listening to what you have to say. I'm learning from you as well at the same time. These are all feedback loops. We learn more, we hone our skills, we hone our thoughts, we hone our products, and we get better at what we do. And then we sell something better or we sell more. So imposter syndrome, back to that. This is the fourth point in my review of being ourselves and being you. Feeling imposter syndrome can actually be quite helpful because it might show us, it might give us some clues that we're experiencing resistance. And Seth Godin talks about resistance. He wrote a book called Linchpin, which he examines this concept in quite some length, because he says generally imposter syndrome can indicate resistance to what we should be doing. So you've got to embrace fear and that resistance and push on through it. And it's probably on the other side of that resistance where we should be, but somehow our subconscious is telling us we're afraid to go there. So these signs of resistance and fear can be actually quite helpful. So we all need to learn to watch out for those signs, because maybe on the other side of that, there's a clue to where we should be and what we really, really love doing. And we've got to ask ourselves, why are we procrastinating? Why are we resisting? Where do we need to go? And how do we get to be ourselves? Because this talk is all about being yourself and how valuable and powerful that is, as well as the effect it can have on inspiring other people, which I've just mentioned. Fifth area that struck me in talking about being ourselves is the job interview. Have any of you ever been interviewed for a job? I guess probably all of us at some time in our lives. Did anyone simply say to you, what do you do? And if they did, you probably responded with a category like, I'm a bookkeeper, I'm an accountant, I'm a quality controller, administrator, service rep, whatever it was. So you were putting yourself and you were being put into a box, a standard, well-defined product. I'm a bookkeeper, I'm a product. So we were commoditizing ourselves as a general impression and an identity. We weren't focusing on our individual qualities by doing that. But is that really you? And did the box you shoved yourself into all those years ago define you? And does it define you now? Does it express your true qualities, really, and what you have to offer? You have to create yourself as you and create your offering to the world your way. You can't be shoved into a box. So this is something we have to learn sometimes. Society likes to pigeonhole us, to categorize us, because then they can understand what they think about you. But that does not provide room for uniqueness and what we all have to offer, which is always very different. You could have two bookkeepers sitting side by side in an office who offer very different things to the world and have very different ideas of what they want to do for people. Are we happy? Would we be happy just to be defined as the bookkeeper? Does that really define us? Or are we something more than that? And it's a choice. Importantly, this is a choice. It's within our power to decide how we wish to be defined and how we wish to live. We can live as ourselves. We are the master of or mistress of our own identity. We don't have to be shoved into a box. We can embrace all the good and bad things that have happened to us, process them, recognize them, how they relate to us, but then decide who we want to be right now, the true us, the true you. We can decide that now. Forget everything that's happened before. It's rich experience, it's valuable, it's part of that tapestry I referred to earlier, of the threads of your life that you've woven, which is very, very important as a base. But you can be who you want to be now if you choose to be, not being a definition of something that happened in your past that's locked you in some way to a defined term and shoved you into a box. So let's decide who we want to be right now, how we want to be now, and how we want to react to circumstances now, not how we would have reacted to them before. Decide what we want to create now. That's important to me. And as I said last year when I talked about a similar topic, decide what you want to pack for the next stage of your journey. I have this image of a suitcase in my mind and packing the things I'm going to take with me, and not just carrying along the things I had in that case in the past, old thoughts and old attitudes. They could be packed in my case, or they can be thrown away now, just like I can throw away old and worn out clothes, the old clothes that perhaps other people gave me that I put into that suitcase. I can get rid of them. Let's choose our own clothes, and let's really think about that. I also said about this last year, be who you want to be, not who you have been and did not want to be. That is a choice too. You can choose not to be that person and to learn from the lessons you've drawn from life and be the person you've now learned you really are. Whatever you do though, I would say, let's all be our best positive selves. Give everybody the gift of you and how you really are, because that's when you make a difference, and that's when you can change the world and change your own destiny in life too. So that takes me onto the sixth area, and I won't go on too much long, you'll be pleased to know, before I open up the floor. But the sixth area is, remember always, we have to remember there's more than one version of us. We evolve over time, and we encompass many, many different qualities, which we may have lived in various phases of our life. And I know, looking at somebody like Gail on the screen now, Gail has lived many lives in many contexts, in many places, and they're different. So we can have more than one us, and we have to allow ourselves to evolve and go through those stages, to go with the flow and seize those new directions and opportunities. We have to allow ourselves to do that. There is no one me that started out that way decades ago and is now me now. I'm a different me. And if we don't allow ourselves to evolve like this, we really risk not being who we want to be, because we've just left ourselves parked in a previous incarnation somewhere. And then we continue to hang on to it and follow it without really questioning it, maybe for years, maybe for decades. And we might encounter fear and worry as we try and step into a new incarnation. That's normal. It's not easy to do that. It's normal. It's quite difficult to make some of those choices. But staying in one incarnation and staying the same is how we got where we are right now. We need to embrace change to change our direction. We can't just carry on in the same incarnation forever and expect a different outcome. So when we make that leap to a new incarnation, a new us, and being truly ourselves, we just need to get hands on and do it. We've got to get out there and make our first jigsaw puzzle, design our first wall hanging, write our first ebook or course. Just start doing it. Doing it helps you to leap from the old incarnation to the new, and it brings knowledge and experience. And that knowledge and experience can bridge the gap, in my view, between any old incarnation and then any new incarnation. It helps us to ease the passage of changing ourselves. It's practice, 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 and change. Change comes from that. So seventh area, really, we're going to be judged. Sure, we're going to be judged by people for being us, being the way we are along the way. But we have to learn, really, this is crucial. We have to learn to brush off those judgments, brush them off Ivier's virtual doorstep, as she put it, before they cross the threshold into our mind. Those judgments can be damaging, negating, and harmful if we don't question them. We have to keep away the wrong judgments from negative people that do not mean us well, or just don't agree with the way we are. We're just different to them, perhaps. They're not judging us, but they just don't understand us. So why, we have to ask ourselves, are the opinions of all these other people more important than our own? Why? Why do we not listen to our own opinions and try to stay on track, learn our lessons, but be ourselves in the process? Earl Nightingale said, by the way, about judgment, when you judge others, you do not judge them, you define yourself. Now, that's a fascinating comment. Remember that next time somebody's judging you, they're actually defining themselves in that judgment. That is not necessarily anything to do with the way you are. It's coming from them and their own makeup. Last area I wanted to touch on, really, before we open the floor, was don't worry about the mistakes you're definitely going to make. We're all going to make along the way. Being the true you is going to create problems and mistakes for sure. But as John always tells us, it's better imperfect and done than perfect and not done, for sure. Because otherwise you sit there trying to work out who you are, not trying anything and not getting anything completed. And then you will never know what the possible you looked like. There's just no reruns in life, unfortunately. We've got one shot at this. The poet John Clare, I quoted in one of my talks, said, if life had a second edition, how I would correct the proofs. Well, unfortunately, the problem is there is no second edition. And you've got to fill the first edition of this book, otherwise you risk ending up with an empty book with no type on it at all. That's the stark reality, I'm afraid. So John Clare would have liked to have had his second go at reproofing his first edition, but that never comes. That never comes. It's now or never. So I wanted to leave you with a further thought from Earl Nightingale, who I've quoted extensively today because he's very apposite on this topic. He said, everything begins with an idea. He was a great one for talking about the power of thought and ideas. So today, for all of us, could be the day that we actually act on those ideas, on change, and make those changes and transformations. It could be today. Be who you want to be. Come as you are, as I describe it. Embrace your goals, embrace your dreams, and pursue them with all your might, and dare to be yourself and show yourself to the world. You never know what's going to happen or who's going to follow you. How many thousands of people will follow your talk, your product, your ebook? You just never know. So at that point, hope that's prompted some thoughts. I was going to open up the floor to anyone that wants to put in their thoughts on this. I'd love to hear from you. So many areas to cover, but I do think this is a duty as well, as I said, to be ourselves, can help to inspire other people who come behind us, who are going through the same difficult journey we've been on. We can actually change their future by being ourselves. So it's not just going to change our life. We don't know actually how many other lives it could change. In the case of the two people I mentioned, the youngest ever headmaster, he changed the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of children. In the case of the art pupil I mentioned, he definitely has changed the lives of thousands and thousands of young people. What an amazing thing he's done, Bill Strickland, a Manchester Craftsman's Guild, worth looking up in Pittsburgh. So please, anyone, any thoughts, Gail? Any thoughts, anybody else? I'd love to hear you on this. Love to hear you. Anyone going to come out and express themselves today? Although it's going to be a very short session. Here we go. Gail, thank you very much. How did it strike you, Gail?
Okay. In my younger years and as I got older, I never had much of an impression of myself. I didn't think I was worth anything. I just, because of all the baggage from my younger years. And then people started to comment and say nice things about me. And I would think to myself, they don't know the real me. What if they knew the real me, what would they think? And that was the sort of mindset I had. I was not good. I wasn't any of that. But I still kept true to what I felt in my heart is the way I was, or the way I had to treat other people. And eventually I really came to believe that, maybe what other people are seeing in me really is there, and it took a long time to believe them and to start to think better of myself. So it was a long process, but, every time when somebody would compliment me, and my immediate thought was, oh, thank you. But in my mind, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't be saying that. But I've changed my mind about myself over the years, so.
Oh, we might have lost Gail temporarily there. I'm not sure you can hear us, Gail. I've certainly lost Gail there. Hopefully you can still hear me. Oh, here we go, Gail. Sorry, we lost you. We lost you there. It broke off a bit.
Yeah, I didn't realize
you changed your mind about yourself, which was a great thing to hear.
Yeah, now I'm beginning to believe some of the things that people will compliment me on, but it's been a long journey.
It certainly has, Gail. That raises in my mind, you've got to say nice things to yourself about yourself. We can have a downer on ourselves and we're going to stop ourselves making any progress. We have to believe in ourselves and accept our flaws. I talked about flaws. They're certainly there, but everybody has them. We have to learn how to control them and work around them and recognize them for what they are. but
Yeah,
we mustn't neglect the positive side of ourselves and encourage that too. It's easy to
exactly.
talk ourselves down. I know a number of people who now I threaten to fine every time I hear them self-denigrating, because they do it all the time. I
Yeah,
think people can lose confidence and be battered down by life and by other people, some of whom have ulterior motives for doing that.
yeah,
And it's horrible to hear somebody self-denigrating themselves all the time. It's
yeah.
not right. Everybody has a lot to offer. I really believe that.
I do
And you've
too.
got to find it. And I think, Gail, you wouldn't have done what you've done if you hadn't been yourself. I don't think you could have lived the life you've led if you hadn't been
No,
yourself and expressed it through all your work. So, it's very,
yeah,
very important, this to me.
yeah.
I don't know if it
And
strikes anyone else that way.
being myself and living the the way I felt and things should be done. It's been very good for me throughout my life and throughout the different journeys that I've taken. So yeah, it's good advice. Thank you.
Great, Gail. Well, thanks for your comments. Those are very helpful. And I think it's a session to share today. I'd like to hear everyone's views really ideally on this. Missy has a hand up as well. Great to hear from you.
Hi, good morning. I missed the first
Hi.
minutes because of e-commerce problems, but first of all, thank everybody in this group. We're reading Joseph Murphy in book study, which I've read before, but something stuck with me because I've been having days and days of ridiculous problems that have made me not like myself. The reactions that I've had have made me very angry at myself and these people, believe me. But I did something different today. I'm still having the same problems, but in this one of the chapters we had read through, it was, and I should know this, I'm a traditional Catholic, I should be doing this anyway, but my Italian half takes over, but I didn't get angry about one thing. Nothing was fixed. I just, before the call, I sent out love and good thoughts. And I said, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And there's no need for me to add to the angst or create more angst for myself or my husband or anybody else, because that doesn't change the facts of the situation. It just makes me less well. And so this group has and is going to continue changing my life. And I will catch the first 15 minutes because I already wrote 3 pages on what you said. And I love it. And I just can't thank this group enough and thank God enough for bringing me to this place. Both my husband and I feel the same way. And God bless all of you. Adrian, you're great. Ivier is my hero. Gail, you're wonderful. All of you. Thank you. God bless you all.
That's very kind, Missy. We're so honored and pleased to have you with us. It's a privilege for us to have you both there as well. You're contributing a lot. And yeah, Ivier is one of my heroes too. She's absolutely fantastic and a powerful speaker, and I so love hearing her speak. So we've got some incredible people in this group who've gone now on very many different journeys. We all started from a common journey, but we've gone in different directions, but stuck together sharing ideas, which is wonderful to see. I can't wait to see what some of these people are going to do. And it's lovely to see people dialing in. But you've given us some powerful indicators there. And one of them was getting angry with yourself. And that goes back to this problem again. We're not going to be efficient and have an impact to the same level we could have done if we're just angry at ourselves the whole time and frustrated with ourselves. We've got to cut ourselves some slack, as they say, and actually believe in ourselves, like ourselves, and then just do the best we can. As you say, it just makes you feel bad if you get angry. It doesn't help.
If I could just add one more thing, when you talked about the incarnations, it's in this life, and it was like a bolt of light that came over me when you said this, because you think of incarnations in other, from another religion, they think they've lived many lives, but if we can just do it now, we don't have to wait for another lifetime. And it's so empowering and it's so hope bringing. And I am going to step into those shoes that are waiting for me because they're right here. And something has been holding me back, even though I've made a lot of progress, but that is going to stick with me. And the new incarnation of Missy is going to arrive without being a different Missy. I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to be funny. I'm still going to be, Italian and fast, but I'm going to be better. And I can't wait till it arrives. So thanks again for that particular verbiage. I really appreciate it.
Well, that's great to hear, Missy, because I do believe that. I think, as you say, incarnation implies several lives, but within our lives, we have many. John and I have talked about this often. John's talked to the group often about the incarnations he's been through in this one life he's living at the moment. It's quite remarkable how we can transform from completely different areas, activities, towns, countries, areas, interests. We grow along the way. Of course, some people don't grow because they don't want to learn, they don't want to study, they don't want to think, they don't talk to people. But all the people in this group are here because they want to learn, develop, change their views, challenge them. And then we move into a different incarnation and we get closer to being ourselves, I would like to think, every time we do that. So I'd encourage that. I really would. And I really believe it. I really believe it. There's nobody you couldn't be as long as it's yourself. As long as it's yourself and it's fully aligned with you, do it. Do it, because you should be living like that right now. So I really believe in that. Anyway, any other thoughts? I'm not sure John has any thoughts.
I'll jump out. Thank you so much, Adrian. So good to see you back. Welcome back to warm weather, and you deserve to be warm. That's great. But as far as what Missy was saying about waiting for some other life to do it, do what? I guess is what's coming up for me. What are we doing? Besides having the experience, hopefully doing some good and leaving the planet better than we found it. Besides that, I don't have too many answers. Right? So who is it that said there's no evidence ever that life was supposed to be taken seriously? So I guess that gives a bit of fluidity, right? So who is this Adrian or this John or this Missy or Edward or Daisy or right? Fill in your name. But who is this person that's showing up? And is it so damn rigid that we can't evolve or make some new decisions? We make new decisions all the time, right? So I think it's the inhibition to reaching as far as we could, doing it, I think is the main thing, which I've had my attention on, and what would cause me to hold myself back? What would cause me to withhold action? My own transgressions, my own guilt, from, and we won't get into lifetimes or whatever, but am I 100%, integrity 100% of the time, always? No. So I get to really look and see for myself, and this may not be where you're going with this, but where have I held myself back? And why have I held myself back? Because I don't want to harm you. Well, that's good. Okay. But what is so bad about me? So this is a heavy duty conversation. Anyway, that's what came up for me between what you were saying, Adrian, and all the other stuff that I've been studying. I've been going down the philosophical rabbit hole a lot lately. So,
John, that's interesting. We could certainly have a whole session just on that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was coming at it primarily from the point of view that people often think there's only one them, and that they stick with that and hang on to it and don't progress and allow themselves to evolve into the true them in the area they should be in. They get shoved into an area, especially in the way our world and our school system is. We get shoved into something. We get shoved into this box I was talking about. Some people never get out of that. They just think that's them. That's the only them that exists. Well, there are many us's out there, and we can evolve into those people with a bit of study and a bit of effort and a bit of commitment as we go along. And we have to embrace that. It's quite frightening sometimes. As I was saying, it can be frightening, but we have to go for it, believe in ourselves, and jump the gap. And I think getting hands-on, doing things as we're doing in this group is the best way, because it drags you out of that box. You almost can't fail to make the leap if you get hands-on and practice, because you gather experience and knowledge, and then you find yourself suddenly in a different box before you even know what's happened, which is why lots of people have launched these e-commerce initiatives alongside their current activity in readiness to jump. Some people have already jumped pretty much totally. So I think that's great to see. There's more than one us out there. This is a journey, and the incarnations I talked about and Missy mentioned, they're multiple in this one life. They're multiple. We'll have to debate this one, John. That's interesting.
I like a
Yeah,
good
very
debate.
interesting.
So
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Why do we hold ourselves back, etc. sometimes? Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I'm not sure if anyone else had any. Oh, here we go. Janet, we'd love to hear from you.
Adrian, I have so missed you.
I missed you too, Janet. Missed you too.
I don't know. It's been either I haven't gotten with you or you have not been there or something, but I'm really, I just love everything you have to offer. So yeah, this is lots of great things. You know, Missy, we were on book club last night, and I really like hearing how you approached the day and the thing. That's so great. And I hope that, you know, our experience of something is a lot of what we are thinking. You know, it's not just the other person, and other people respond in to us, and it's not always about us. It's about them and where they're at, and we have to remember that. It also, you know, it's about them. So, but you know, the thing of being flawed, or you know, right off that's where I came in with you. I was a little bit late. I also have to listen to the first part again. But yeah, we are, because we're human. You know, we are who we are. But you know what? Everybody else out there is also flawed. And so it's not like everybody else is perfect and we aren't. And the more that we think, the more that we give other people and ourselves the room to make mistakes and the room to grow and the room to become who we are becoming, the better for everyone. So be a little bit flexible with it. I like the thing about Urban, just thinking the whole stadium was filled with people like him and people who like that same music. That's a great image, because, you know, we always think, no, not we always, I often think that, you know, I have to be better. I have to be more perfect. And of course, part of what we are saying in this group is begin somewhere. Just begin somewhere. And then as you experience more and learn more, you will become an even better version of yourself. And that's just so important, because if we don't, and I think fear is what holds a lot of people back and keeps them in their box or whatever else, the definition, other people's definition of themselves. It's fear. And so we think, oh, well, we might be criticized. Yeah, you probably will be. Yep, you'll be judged. But you need to stay with your values and who you think you are while you're listening to what other people are saying, because it's not that they don't have valid points, you know, but it helps us to become better. And we don't know. So, you know, you kind of touched on a few things as teachers and craftsmen and things like that. We don't know what influence we have on other people. We may not hear from that person directly for 20 or 30 years, and all of a sudden we encounter them again and find out that, oh, we had some kind of positive influence in their lives. And they went on to do things because of something we said. And Adrian, you say so many wonderful things. Trust me, they're written down, they're thought about. You're so great. So yeah, I think we just need to start, like John says, just start somewhere and go from there. If you don't start, you don't have as much chance to evolve. And that's just also important. Everything you said today was so great, as usual, but I really love it. So please don't stay away too much.
Oh, that's very kind, Janet. My head won't be able to fit on this Zoom screen in a minute. I won't be able to fit in the box. That's too kind of you.
Move back a little bit and you'll have more room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, look,
Good.
agree with everything you said. I mean, you know, some of those points I was making today. John, by the way, heard back from somebody, I think 20 years later, about 2 months ago, that had seen one of his talks 20 years ago, and then found him again and said what an effect that talk had had on him. and he came back out of the woodwork. So as you say, you never know. You will never know the effect you've had on most people, because they will never recontact you, but hopefully you've helped them get into the right direction. But as you say, and as I mentioned in the talk, you've got to get hands-on. Absolutely right, Janet, because it's only by practicing we get the skill to evolve to be fully in the space we want to be in. We can wait to get better and not step into that space ever, because we don't think we're ready. Just do it imperfectly, do it now, get into the space, practice. If we need to, we can have a side gig, we can have other things going on to keep us going, but step into that space, the one you've identified as being yours, and then just practice being in it. And then you'll have as much right and skill to be there as anybody else after a while. So we shouldn't feel that fear. Everybody started somewhere to get into that space. They weren't born in it. They had to learn to be in it.
We were not born into
So
it.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
So true, Janet.
I have to
So
think, was that person born knowing that? No, probably not. Probably
No.
not. So how did they get there? But how do I get there? So that's
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's one reason why, when we don't know what influence we have on what we say to someone, it's important. I mean, that's positive or negative. So we should, for myself, I'm learning more and more about kindness. And if I say something to someone or do something that is clothed in love and kindness, then what goes forward with them will be more positive. Because I could say cutting things to people certainly have to me. And that's part of what holds you back and puts that fear into you that you're not good enough. The self-deprecation, I certainly did that in junior high school because I thought I would just beat them to the punch. I would just take the fire out of what they were saying because I already said it. And that's not a good habit either. So.
It's so true, Janet, so true. And that takes me back to the other point about our reactions, our own experiences and how other people are. We take on a lot of baggage, particularly at school, as a protective mechanism. We don't probably dare express ourselves for fear of standing out, being criticized, being bullied, whatever it is. And unfortunately, we then cover ourselves in that cloak and we retain it for many years of our life because we automatically react in the way we think we should to stay safe and under the radar and not criticize and not standing out. But that is not going to help us being ourselves. So we have to look right back to where some of that baggage was picked up and ditch it. I really, really believe that. And you mentioned that earlier on in your comments. Our experience is important and we have to learn to express ourselves all over again sometimes and be ourselves. But kindness, Janet, absolutely agree. That is absolutely it. If we don't do anything else, if we can just be kind and spread smiles, thank people, congratulate people, that is the biggest single thing in my view we can do in the world. And how many people take the trouble to say to somebody, you've done a good job? They're so ready to complain, to criticize the waitress, the staff taking the money or serving them. But how many of them say, you've done a great job? They just think, okay, they've done a great job, so what? And they don't comment. But doing a great job should be congratulated. Just smiling at somebody and passing on some happiness that day could change their whole day and maybe their life too. So important, Janet. I absolutely agree with that. And it frustrates me how few people take the time to write, to congratulate people, to thank them, to express their gratitude for the service they've had. It's not something we should ever take for granted. Absolutely agree, Janet. Kindness is it. It really is it. If that can underlie your whole effort now, you'll get so much more out of it and you'll do so much more good and it will validate your journey. That's all I need to validate my journey, I think. Well,
thank you, Adrian. I'm after everybody else talks, I'm going to talk a little bit about something we said, but I'll give the floor.
Well, maybe go ahead. I'm not sure if anyone else has any comments. Otherwise, Janet will comment some more, I think. You carry on, Janet. People will put their hands up if they want to pile in.
Okay. Well, it's just that, so among the many things that I study is shamanism. And one of the things there is the shadow side. And what you learn is the things that you put away. In other words, people have commented toward you on something that, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, you're something else. So we've identified certain parts of ourselves as not good. We identify ourselves as, oh, I better not do that anymore because that's a bad thing about me. So we hide it, we put it in the shadow. And what happens is that these things that we think negatively about ourselves also take with it pieces of gold, things that were good about us that we also hid away because they were attached to the thing that we thought was not good. And that's, growing up, we are told, don't do this, that's bad, blah, blah, blah. And so there's a lot of things we hide, and we need to re-examine those because there are good things in there about us that we have put away. Like I said, pieces of gold that we need to re-examine and bring those out to be the best version of ourselves, to be the best at who we are and what gifts we have to bring to the world. We need to re-examine all of those things. So I know this isn't the forum for that, but but it's just, there are things to look at that we have hidden, and they aren't necessarily things that will not take us forward. So that's all.
Oh, Janet, that's a fascinating and beautiful way of putting it, really. I love that description. I'll certainly look into that more. Never heard that before. I think it's very true, though. It goes back to this whole debate we've had about conditioning and the conditioning we carry with us that's imposed upon us. That happens a lot, and we have to be able to go back into that conditioning and dispose of it and reanalyze our own reactions, our own approaches, our own thinking, and bring out our qualities. Because, yeah, they can be tempered and held back by conditioning that's been imposed on us by other people, particularly overpowering, overbearing people who thrive on crushing other people and stopping them being themselves. And some of us in this group have certainly experienced that. And it was heartbreaking to hear some of the stories that have been shared over the couple of years on that. So we've got to recognize that for what it is. I think you're absolutely right. And check which pieces of gold we've lost on the process. It's a beautiful description, Janet. Very, very interesting. I love that. So
Thank you.
We may have any further comments from anybody. Anyone like to talk about being you, being yourself, being who you want to be, coming as you are. You're a gift to the world, and you've really got to give it to the world. That's the best you can do for all of us. We love hearing every single one of you because it's giving something back to all of us. Oh, Ivier, great to hear from you, Ivier.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome back, Adrian.
Thank you.
We've missed you as always.
Missed you, Ivier. Always miss you.
I just wanted to say, Adrian, thank you so much for being who you are. I mean, you pour into our lives. Every time you speak, we leave the platform better, richer, more focused, So I just want to say thank you. John, like you say, integrity is everything. And part of being true and real to ourselves and being the authentic us, who we were meant to be, who we were created to be, all boils down to that one word, integrity, right? So it's no brainer that we keep coming back to these concepts. Missy, I can't imagine a time when you weren't on this platform. I don't think I can remember you not being here, because every time you speak, you're speaking from your heart, and you're obviously applying everything you're picking up from the conversations here because you want to be the fullness of who you were created to be. And that is just amazing. That's the kind of transformation that we want this platform to bring about, right? And we haven't tapped into the fullness of what this is yet. I mean, I keep saying we barely scratched the surface, because what we are going to be when we fully embrace all that we are, our strengths, our values, our capabilities, oh my God, it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm just so grateful that we have this space to come together and to just share openly. And we're each growing each other. We're rubbing off on each other, and we're all the better for it. So thank you so much, guys, for being part of this journey for me. It's been amazing. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Ivier. Wonderful. And I'm so glad that you're speaking and expressing yourself. You give so much help to everybody in the group. You really do. And you're a fantastic speaker. I always love listening. So you're a big part of this, Ivy, and you have been since the beginning. You have been since the beginning. So, you know, I agree. Let's celebrate everybody, and let's look back at what's already happened as well, and what's going to happen next year. Some fantastic things are starting to happen. I'm seeing so much activity. I'm seeing mindset changes, which is John's whole mission, really. Changes in mindset, being positively you, and learning how to get forward, how to make progress. This is what it's all about. And mastermind groups, mutual support. Mutual is the word. We got to support each other, because you're going to have tough days where it's not so easy. It doesn't seem so great. So we need to share, and we can draw lessons from the disasters and other terrible things that have happened to other people that they can learn from and pass on to us. So this is so powerful. And yeah, Missy, well done for sharing today, and on many other occasions I've seen you do it. Wonderful. My mission is success for all. I think I've told some of you that before. And I love celebrating, seeing people just becoming themselves and getting where they want to be. It's fantastic. So what a great call it's been. It's fired me up. We've had some great shares, moving into the last weeks of the year now, last 2 weeks of the year, and looking forward to the talks before the year end. Don't forget, by the way, the great Ivy, who's just spoken, is on at 5 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Corporate Curios, corporate stories, life lessons from the boardroom, from management, from teamwork in companies. That is tonight. It's 10 p.m. Eastern, I think, 10 p.m. UK time, I think, and 5 p.m. Eastern time US. So be there if you can be. Brilliant sessions with a brilliant speaker. Unless there are any other, as John would put it, burning desires, I will close the session off, and looking forward to tomorrow's general session as well. I'm sure the Christmas session's already posted, aren't they, John? The Christmas calendar's already up. So it's business as usual, I guess. Have we got any gap days, John, where we're on holiday?
Yeah, after Christmas, well, Christmas Eve, I think we're going to shut down.
Okay.
For the weekend, right? Because that's a Friday, and I'm moving, so it's going to be rough. It's not going to be fun Friday. It's going to be frantic Friday. So we'll see how that goes. And then the week after is going to be fun.
Shelf is empty now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looks different than it did yesterday.
Yeah, I got boxes. It's going to look different every day this week. So, yeah.
Well, that's reminding me, John, of the quote. I think you moved 18 months ago or something like that, and the Socrates quote: "If a man must move the world, he must first move himself," which I'll remind you of again, but you've taken it to heart. Anyway, great to see you. Great to see everybody. I'm going to bring the session to an end, if I may. We're at the top of the hour, and look forward to seeing you all later and tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and thanks a million for those fantastic comments today. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
for
you
now.
so much.
Bye. Lovely to see you all. Bye. Bye.